It sounds like you're not that fond of negative punishment.
I am not fond of the overuse of negative punishment, and it's a transition. It's a transition period. So when I wrote this book, Rough Love, it was in 2000 that I started writing it. I think it was probably published in 2002 or something. And it's funny because somebody texted me or sent me a DM behind the scenes of this conversation last week and said, you say you don't like punishment, but isn't Rough Love got a lot of punishment in it? And that is the transition. So you've got one foot on the dock and one foot in the boat, and you've got to make that transition to go all in on reinforcement. But oh my gosh, I've had so much success. I don't want to take that foot off the dock. So I think the transition between punishment and going to a reinforcement base is the use of negative punishment.
What a great question, and what a great answer. It just shows what I've always said. Books stand still in time. What you write now is not what you would write in 20 years if you carried on looking into dog training. And we all should move forward and evolve and get better. But that's my whole point about releasing a book. Will it last the measure of time, or does it become irrelevant very quickly and look like old school dog training? But don't forget, some people become so obsessed they go completely the opposite way instead of finding a balanced approach.
The overuse of punishment, I don't care if it's negative or positive, Correct. Is emotionally taxing on a dog.
I totally agree with this statement, but it could be taken totally out of concept of what she's saying.
I mean, that's been proven.
The next question should be proven by who? It's how you manipulate what you want to sell, and that's what this is all about.
So I think that's a natural transition for people, that they give more timeouts, but I'm constantly questioning what I do. And if I withhold reinforcement from my dog, then I've got to question my role in why that reinforcement wasn't earned. And it's never that the dog just didn't do it, because I know if I've done my job as a trainer, my dogs will never not do it.
There is a very fine line between arrogance and confidence, but that line she's just said has blown her out of the water.
When people say, I need punishment for when my dog won't lie down when I tell them, that's never going to happen. If I ask my dogs to lie down, they're going to lie down because of the way I've trained them. And if they chose to, I would say there's something like they're not feeling well, or they're terrified of something.
I'm going to have to totally disagree with this bit, but it's important that you listen to stuff.
Those would be the only, like they're in pain or they're terrified would be two reasons my dogs wouldn't lie down.
No, this is good. I'm following. I totally like what we're talking here. What I was thinking as you're speaking, and I don't know, you tell me, but it sounds like to accomplish what you're saying, and I'm not doubting that it's impossible.
Let's have an honest conversation. I know he doesn't want to upset her, but he is doubting her.
I have doubts that sometimes you will say something and the dog will blow you off. I think that's very hard to convince me from a trainer perspective. But if that's possible, that means that you have done some amazing job from the very beginning.
Ivan was right, because technically, if she can do it without any reinforcement, any punishment, any negative, then she's a better trainer than all of us. Anybody who uses discipline. Because if you can do it without discipline, I'm joining your group of people. I'll become a disciple of you and your methods. But guess what? It's smoke and mirrors. I will explain as we go further on.
Okay, there's things we manage and there's things we train. Mm-hmm. My dogs, when you come to my house, are going to bark, and probably they're going to jump on you too. Tater salad for sure is going to jump on you.
So there's a fine example for you. In some areas, she has brilliant control because she works at it. In others, she has no control. That's not me being negative about her. It's the same scenario. I wouldn't take my dogs to Tesco's and expect them to walk at heel, in a perfect heel, while I went shopping around Tesco's. It's not what I want. Could I train the behaviour? Yes. But if I train too many behaviours, I suppress the dog's drive. And I want the dog to want to keep that drive and desire.
And, you know, it's like anything. You keep reinforcing it and you just get these amazing dogs that just love being part of what you do.
So I totally agree. But you also get the same effect even by using punishment if you know how to use punishment properly and correctly. Not overuse it. Know when to use it. And if you don't try it and you don't master it, you'll never learn how to use it. And most important, when not to use it. That is the real cue.
I learned a lot of this from, like, Buzzy taught me so much, and he was obsessed with water. The first time I let him go in a pond, I timed him. He was just like a 10-month-old puppy. He wouldn't come out. So I'm like, it was like 40 minutes, and he was still like swimming and barking and being crazy. So I got him out, and then we have a pond on the property here. So I needed because I have friends whose dogs died in their own ponds.
Don't forget what she just said not long ago. That once she teaches a behaviour, the dog doesn't disobey that behaviour. That's important when you listen to that. She's giving the dog a command and it's not doing it at 10 months and 12 months. So there's your breakdown in the training, because if you give a command, you've got to enforce it. If she doesn't enforce it because she only uses positives, she's in trouble.
And get really excited. Like, actually, he liked going in more than he liked to swim, just because I did so many recalls. And I would never call him out after I learned that he would give me a reliable recall in the water, but he loved it. So I'm like, okay, I just used that to reinforce something else. And that, back in 1997, got my wheels turning to use it for more other things. However, yes, I remember once being dressed, ready to go to church, and he decided he was going for a swim. And I had to go and jump in the water after him, all dressed in my Sunday's
story.
best.
I don't know where, but I've listened to that story, yeah.
Yeah.
So the dog wouldn't come out of the water. She used discipline. She used force to get the dog out of the water.
Yeah. And I don't know that I would do that now.
I think it's only fair that I left that bit in, that she said that she's changed her method by now.
I'm not as obsessive because it's punishing to the dog.
I accept it's punishing to the dog, but a short, sharp correction sometimes is better than a long-winded nagging session.
To jump on them and grab them out of the water and pull them out. But what I would do is go, more layers needed. And I would be able to go off to church, put the dog up, and then go and put in more layers when he's hot, when he's more aroused, when he's whatever it is.
And she's right there, because it's no different than myself. We teach to sit through gameplay, don't we? And that's really important. We then have a dog that wants to sit because it wants to play the game. But then when we move the dog up to the next level, under real temptation, because we created temptation and we've taught the dog what the fun of temptation is, we then have to use discipline. And that's how we get over it brilliantly.
What every dog is different, what every dog loves. What is it? Like for Tater Salad, he loves the games on walks. And that's, he used to, when we got him, we have a 200-acre golf course. And when we first got Tater Salad, I got to go visit the golfers. Every single one of them must meet me. And so it was like, there was a lot of management. And then, like, I think he's now 5, and we've had him for 3.5 years. So maybe year 2, he would only visit. And every golfer that he would go visit, they'd let him get in their cart with him, right? So that he'd get reinforced. And, but, so, yeah, all of that is figuring out what is it that he loves and using it. I had a student with a golden retriever, and this is the only dog that I suggested an e-collar for.
So she doesn't believe in discipline, and yet that's hypocritical, because she would let someone else use an e-collar on a dog that she couldn't get over that problem at that point. That is not the way that I would evaluate it if you're positive only and you want the tools banned. Why would you want to go down that road or even suggest it? Unless you've got a serious flaw in your training capabilities.
She was also a very good friend of mine and one of my instructors.
I don't think that's good for your image, nor your instructor's image, training ability.
It would, like a switch would flip and it would be gone. It would go. It would run and it would be gone. It'd be a speck and you would never see
outside
it.
the
Just, yeah.
Oh.
We don't have any fences here.
Oh.
And so one time I was teaching in California and I phoned home to see how everything was. My husband said, talk to Linda. Linda's crying. The dog was in standing heat. Had been gone for an hour and a half. They ended up finding her playing with some ducks in the pond at the golf course. So not much reinforcement there for field-bred golden, right?
Exactly.
And so now we've had so many repetitions of this behavior. I said, Linda, I think we've got to find somebody who really understands an e-collar, because I think she's going to die because she's going across highways and this is dangerous. And she said, this was back in the 90s.
Like I said, horses for courses. My sport, I need a dog to stop and I need a dog to return when told straight away.
Or, yeah, and she said, Susan, I know there's an answer. We just don't know it. So I would prefer we work through this with reinforcement. Bob Bailey just happened to be up the next summer, and we talked to, or the next week, and we talked to him about it. And she actually did it with him. Did a seesaw, got reinforcement, did a jump, did a dog walk. We went to reinforce her, and the switch went, and she was gone into the woods. And Bob said, I've never seen anything like that.
So there you go. You heard it yourself. One of the things that is so important as a gun dog trainer, how many thousands of dogs have I had in that situation that will clear off because of the way they've associated their training and the environment around them and got away with it? How many times have I corrected it without causing major problems to the dog's mental state? It's unbelievable. A simple thing like that, because I'm a specialist in that area, that's what I'm good at.
But we figured it out.
Nice.
And we used reinforcement to fix it. The dog went on to be brilliant, had a brilliant recall. We went back and looked at videos.
I'm so curious to hear it. I'm dying to hear how did we do.
What the strategy was, when she was a puppy in class, I would go around to the groups and that puppy would come up and, like, she was one of those Goldens that wiggled and jump up to your head to say hello, right? Like, she's just crazy. And she would leave work, go and do this, and then Linda would go, Spirit, and she'd come running back and get lots of fun tug. And then we would work out in the agility field and she would do the same thing till she got to the fence. And then she would be called and she'd come back. And what we weren't realizing, she was just going till she couldn't go anymore. Till the day she got to go and there was no boundaries. And then she was gone. So it had been a rehearsed behavior growing up that got reinforced when she came back.
There you go, a reinforced behavior taught in puppy class and then out in the field. That's how dogs learn. And that's why it's important you've got to know how to sort a problem dog out, not have a dog and don't create the problem. A lot of these good trainers don't put problems into the dogs so they don't have to get over those problems. The real skill set is working with people who've created problems through different associations. Like in the gun dog world, if you take your dog hunting and it starts to chase and it decides the chase is far more rewarding than listening to you, I'm going to have my work cut out to control that dog, correct that dog. And I'm not going to do it with sweets, I'm not going to do it with treats, and I'm not going to do it with gameplay all the time. Sometimes I'm going to have to use those enforcers, I'm going to have to use those punishers, and that's what makes me the trainer I am. I'm not going to hold baggage, I'm not going to be concerned that it's going to knock the dog back. It's going to get the behavior I want, and it's not going to affect the dog. Because as long as I've created drive in the first place, the dog will come down a little bit, but still remain high drive because of the gameplay that I've created in the first place.
You know, I'm kind of going through that with my little puppy right now, the 9-month-old, because she loves to chase the border collies. And so she won't come back. She'll come back in the house, but not in the field. So I play with that all the time. So how quick, or I'll get this recall, and I got like 90% recall. It's not good enough for me. I want 100%.
Right.
So how much into drive can you be and me call you and you say I can't come? Like, I know varying levels of drive, like any really, really driven working breed. Like, once they get to over this level, will they listen? And that's what I want for my agility dogs.
Yes.
Because we want them to do bite work or agility without thought.
That is so true, and that's why it's so important to know when to give the discipline and when to give the encouragement through gameplay.
Because if they think about things, then they're not going to be as good.
And that was the only way that I would beat the film stars out there in the trial world on the day. I had to have a dog that was pacier, faster, more driven, and looked like it wanted to do it because it loved it. And that was important. I had to be better than them, not as good as them. I had to be better than them. Now that's a statement that some people would say, I've never heard such big-headedness. I'm telling you, you will only beat the film stars if you stand out above them on the day in the trial world.
Yes.
We need them to be without thought in their work, but still be responsive to what we say.
Spot on, or you destroy the drive and the desire. But Ivan and myself know that.
And so, that's I love that challenge of very high drive dogs and being able to accomplish that with just using what reinforces that dog. And it's not going to be a cookie.
Well, that's really ruined it for the food-based trainers, hasn't it? Hey, them cheese trainers, those cookie trainers. Obviously, she's learned that lesson, hasn't she?
I mean, it's for a working dog, it's almost unheard of. In my history with working with high drive dogs, I can get them to the point where they'll work for cookies. But when they're at that stage when we start, the cookie isn't going to be the thing. That is going to be their reinforcement.
Absolutely spot on. You've just thrown Zach George, Victoria Stilwell, and all of the other cookie feeders under the bus. But has she? No, she's not. She's right. Because what she said is sports trainers, dogs with drive that need drive to win competition. You have to train them different. It all comes down to the levels of temptation you're going to put them in and what you want to achieve with the dog.
But so the golden goes into the pond with the dogs that one time, and you just go and take her back, or
yes, I was in California, but yes, they went and I think they had to get a canoe.
Yeah.
She was just having a great time.
I can imagine.
And
okay.
I know Ivan was trying to be polite.
Yeah, get her back, and that wasn't the last time it happened. Like, I think we were in Florida one time, and that's when she went across a highway, and that's when I said, this has got to stop.
Right.
She's going to be killed. And so, yeah, the strategy, and again, everything in dog training that's successful has got to be distilled down to a process that can be shared. So that's how what I've done. Like, I've had success, and then I'm like, if I'm going to train this to pet owners, which is what I do now, we have 10,000 students in our classes right now. We've trained tens of thousands of dog owners online, pet owners.
And that about sums it up. Pet owners. You are teaching pet owners, you are selling an ideology.
With rescue dogs that are biting them, that are creating all these problems. The ones that get success are the ones that are patient to follow the process.
And she's spot on, because it's the long and winding road. They will get there eventually, but it's long-winded and not straight to the point. The moral of the story is simple, isn't it? If you haven't got a canoe and your dog doesn't listen to you because you've not reinforced any of the behaviors, all you've done is used gameplay, when the value of the gameplay is less than the value of what the dog wants to do, the value of the gameplay will go out the window. Gameplay is so important. It's a massive part of our training. But without the enforcers at the right time, it doesn't send clarity to the dog. This whole video is 3 hours long, and I don't think many people will watch it. They'll get very bored, very confused. So I've tried to break it down into simple segments for people to understand. But this is the simplest fact of the matter. She has already said in this video that with competition dogs, you don't want to destroy drive. You don't want to destroy desire. You don't want the dogs having to think, am I going to be in trouble if I do this? So they don't give the discipline. That's their excuse for not giving discipline. But actually, she's training pet people. And most pet dogs, it doesn't hurt bringing down the drive, bringing down the desire, bringing down the unwanted behaviors. So you could use punishment. It's just an ideology. And what she's trying to sell sells to the pet world. And that's why they do it. As simple as that.